Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Build Guides. Today we're checking out a Guardian build that packs a bit of a punch. It's fairly versatile, it can skirmish quite well, it can roam not particularly quickly but it's effective once it's actually in combat, and it can also help bunker down, help support a player at a point as well. So it's great for hot join games where you don't know quite what you're going to be needed to do, and it's also great in tournament games as well, as you can have a player like this in your build and they can help to then counter what the enemy's bringing and stuff like that as well. So it works quite well in both types of SPVP. So for our weapons, we got the sword and focus in one weapon set. This gives us flashing blade for a gap closer, zealot's defense for a pretty good amount of damage, rare judgment there which provides regeneration to allies and blindness to enemies, and then shield of wrath which protects you from the next 3 attacks and then explodes, doing some pretty reasonable damage. So the sword is going to be mainly sort of your melee weapon. This build relies on swapping weapons quite a lot, so you can be cycling through these skills quite quickly, so you don't really have to hold anything in reserve too much. Most of the skills are on a reasonably short cooldown, as you can see 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 25. Only thing that's on quite a long one here is the Shield of Wrath. In our second weapon set, we've got the Scepter and Shield. Again, fairly short cooldowns, barring for the Shield of Absorption here. The Shield of Absorption is an AoE knockback that also heals yourself and teammates as well. But we get some range from the Scepter, so that's quite important for any sort of roaming build. And it makes the fact that we're not too quick and mobile not so much of a problem, because we can start attacking from 1200 range with skills like Smite and the Orb of Wrath. On a shorter range, you have to bear that in mind, is Chains of Light. It's only a 900 range, but it's an immobilization, so you can use this in conjunction with the Smite skill to lock a player in place and then follow up with that. The fourth skill as well is the Shield of Judgment. This is going to provide protection to yourself and allies in a sort of a conal shape in front of you when the skill is triggered. It also does a little bit of damage. So we're going to get some reasonable protection uptime from that. We've got some OK CC, we've got the immobilization and the knockback. Not too focused on that, but we've got some good damage coming in from Smite, which is also AoE, and as you can see, only a 6-second cooldown. That's a very powerful skill. For our heal, we've got the Signet of Resolve, kills a condition every 10 seconds and heal yourself. We've got it traded, which gets it down to a 32-second cooldown, which is pretty good for an 8,400 heal, which is, well, to be honest, massive. You can see our HP pool is only 18.7k, so that's near healing almost on near on half our HP pool in one hit there on a fairly short cooldown. The other option would be Shelter, but I wouldn't recommend that, as this gives us a little bit of condition removal, and condition removal is something this build does suffer with. Hold the Line, grant protection and regeneration to allies. So it's just a fairly short duration skill, a short cooldown skill, and the protection uptime is really important. It's going to give us some serious damage mitigation, and the regeneration uptime is going to help as well in keeping ourselves alive in those longer fights. Stand Your Ground is pretty much a must-have for most Guardian builds. It's on a really short cooldown, only 24 seconds when it's traded like we have it, and stability is going to give us, it's going to give us stability, so we can actually use that to help finishing off players or reviving our teammates, and also retaliation as well. Now, retaliation is an important part of this build. We've got traits set up, and we'll go into that a little bit later, but you can pretty much have retaliation up constantly if you wanted to. However, if you are going to be doing that, you're not very reactive to what the enemy is doing, so it will require you triggering Stand Your Ground just to get the retaliation uptime, not worrying too much about the stability. So when you do down the player eventually, you might not have that stability there to help you finishing them off. So that can be a problem. It just depends on what sort of playstyle you want to go with. This build does fit into 2 distinct playstyles quite effectively. For our last utility skill, we've got the Signet of Judgment. This reduces incoming damage by 10%, and it also grants retaliation to nearby allies when you trigger it, and also applies weakness to enemies. So this again is another way for us to get some more retaliation uptime, and if you are running that retaliation build, you're going to want to be triggering this. However, if you're not going to be focusing too much on retaliation, you don't actually have to. You're still going to get good retaliation uptime regardless, but if you're actually triggering this, you're going to get it more often and pretty much constantly you can get it. If you're not triggering it, you're going to get that 10% damage reduction, which is quite effective, and that's going to be up all the time. If you wanted to swap this out for something else, I'd recommend Judge's Intervention. This teleports you to your target and burns nearby foes. A fairly powerful skill. It's a stun breaker and it's got a massive range on it, and you can actually use it to do things like jump from the area around the clock tower on Kylo. You can jump straight into the clock tower if you get a target on the enemy in there, so it can make you a bit more mobile for roaming. Also, another skill that might help with roaming is Retreat as well, which gives you some pretty solid swiftness uptime, 27 seconds on a 48-second cooldown, so you can use that to make yourself more mobile if you did want to fit more into a roaming role. For the elite skill, we've gone with Renewed Focus. Now, this is a personal choice because I just don't like the tombs. If you are going to go with something else, I'd recommend going with the Tomb of Courage because the heal on the number 5 skill is massive. It gives you a lot more support, but it depends on what you want to go for here. I prefer having this because I think the damage mitigation you can get from being invulnerable for 3 seconds is huge, and you can also, in fact, spam off all these skills, pop that, and then spam them all off again if you wanted to get a lot more retaliation uptime, as these are actually going to give you retaliation when you trigger them. We'll go into that in a moment in the traits. For our armour, we've got some interesting rune choices. So we've got 2 runes of the monk, 2 runes of water, and then 2 runes of fire. So this is giving us some pretty good boon uptime. We're getting 20% boon uptime and 50 healing. Now, these 2 we got here for the rune of fire, the ones you can swap out if you wanted to change it up. So this is giving us might duration, which is basically going to help us here when we get into our sigils in a minute. But the might duration basically means we can have a lot more might uptime, which, as you haven't seen, we obviously don't have that in any of our skills, but we can actually get between 6 and 9 stacks of might up constantly, and that's going to be quite a large bonus to your actual damage. If you did want to swap out for something else, you could in fact go for the 3rd water and monk rune, which is going to give you another 100 healing, making your heal more powerful, but I felt having the extra might uptime is a bit more offensive, so it just depends on what you want to go for there. If you want to go for protection uptime, you could do that as well. Now for the sigils, we've gone with the sigil of damage superior force, which gives 5% damage. That's in both the scepter and the sword. And then in our offhands, we've gone with the sigil of superior battle. This gives 3 stacks of might for 20 seconds. Now this is what we were talking about before. We actually got some pretty strong boon duration. You can see it there, it's at 35%. And we've also got this 20% here, so it's actually going to give us 55% longer boon duration. Which means if you're swapping your weapons on a regular basis, which you will be doing with a build like this, because you're able to cycle through these weapons quite quickly, you're actually going to be having boon up a lot of might up time, and you're actually going to be hitting sort of between 6 and 9 stacks of might at any time in sort of the longer fights, which is pretty important. This build is built for those longer fights already. It's got a fair amount of sustain. For our amulet choice, we've gone the PvP Soldiers Amulet, Power, Toughness and Vitality, pretty solid. So we've gone 0, 30, 10, 15, 15, 30 points in Radiance, buffing up the Justice virtue here, so that's going to give us Justice is blind, so when we activate it we blind nearby foes. It's renewed when you kill a foe and you deal more damage to foes inflicted with a condition, so we're going to get a little bit of burning up time out of that, so that's going to give us a little bit more damage. Here we've got Signets recharge 20% faster, which is pretty much a must-have when we're going with the Signet Resolve, and also, of course, helping there with the Signet of Judgment. Powerful Blade, sword and spear damage is increased by 5%. This isn't a must-have, but I couldn't really think of anything better for it, so that's why we went with that. And what is a must-have really is this one here, which gives us 15% more critical chance with one-handed weapons. Now I do believe this only applies to the ones in your main hand, so it's obviously the sword and the scepter, but that's what we want because they are really our main damage weapons. So we're going to be critting a bit more often with that, which is going to up our damage quite substantially. 10 points in Valor, giving us gain Aegis when your health reaches 50%, so a bit more uptime on that, and then lose a condition every 10 seconds. So now we're going to lose 2 conditions every 10 seconds, making it a bit more useful in general there. Honor, giving us 15 points, so we've gone with gain 5 seconds of Vigor when you deliver a critical hit. Now this is why we've also got this one up here, and we've also gone with these 30 points here, giving us a lot of precision. So this is going to give us quite a bit of Vigor uptime, pretty much constantly. It's on a 5-second cooldown, it triggers every full 5 seconds when you activate it, and we've got a reasonable crit rate, so we're actually going to be triggering that very often, giving us a lot of dodges. Now those dodges are going to come in handy because we've also got this one here, which when you end your dodge roll, it gives you a heal, and this heal is fairly substantial, so you're going to be dodging quite a lot if you can. And then Shells recharge 20% faster, just dropping the cooldowns on those down a bit. 15 points in Virtue, giving us Inspired Virtue, so you're going to get Might, Regeneration and Protection when you're triggering these to give us a bit more boon uptime in general. And then gain Retaliation when you activate a Virtue. So now all this together is going to give us some pretty good retaliation uptime by triggering all these skills. You can see here it's up to 23 seconds. We're on all the 3 skills here, or lower cooldowns than that, so we had to get those off again before that ends. So you can see we can actually get quite good retaliation uptime if we do want to by triggering those skills as often as possible. We've also got this one here, which is going to make retaliation last 25% longer, which is where it all works. You can see here now the skills are coming off cooldown, and it's still up, and we can actually just easily spam them all again. I mean, you would spam them as soon as they come off cooldown, of course, if you're actually in combat. And now we've got 12 seconds on that. These ones are coming back off cooldown again. You can see how it works. You get it constantly up. We've got a bit of gameplay for you now. So first up, we've got a few clips against a warrior. These are all 1v1s, and we're going to show you a few different parts of the build. So first up, we're going to start off with a bit of damage mitigation. We're coming in there, we missed our blindness, but we did manage to get a bit of damage off on him. And then we proc our number 4 skill to apply some blindness to him and pop our shield. You can see we haven't taken any damage at all so far. He's lining up kill shot here. We dodged slightly too late and actually took the full brunt of the force of that. We could have dodged before though, if we'd been a little bit quicker off the draw. He manages to land his balls charge on us there because our stability wore off a little bit earlier than we expected, but we're still managing to deal some more damage to him. He's channeling up a kill shot once again then, and we managed to completely mitigate all the damage by dodging out the way of it. You can see Vigor reprocking pretty much every 5 seconds. It's constantly on us. We've got no real problem at all with our endurance regeneration. It's coming back up very, very quickly. And we're also able to apply quite a bit of blindness to him. We don't only have the number 4 skill there on the focus, but we also have the Virtue of Justice whenever we want to proc that. You can see his HP is getting pretty low. Endure Pain's triggered on one of him. That's probably a traded one by the look of the amount of HP he was on when it kicked in. But we're able to easily deal with it. We've used our heal now, got ourselves back up to full HP, and we're hoping to be able to put him down pretty quickly. Again, we proc our shield here so we can mitigate any damage if you're going to come in with anything, and then we go, it blocks another balls charge there. The shield took the effects from that and he goes down. This Guardian's going to res him back up so we can fight him again. So as he gets revived, we're straight back into combat, dishing out some reasonable damage on him here with the scepter. He goes to line up a kill shot here but cancels it before it's charged. That's probably because he had some very low adrenaline at the time. He tried to cast a stomp there which completely missed, and he pops fear bomb on us. We cancel that with our third virtue, giving ourselves Aegis, which actually completely removed the fear from us. We quickly got rid of that. So you can see there we had a bit of good retaliation up time at the start of this fight, and that was causing him some problems. He was actually taking quite a bit of damage from that. Here we just take him on from range a little bit with our scepter, and he balls charges us there, and we could easily dodge out of the way of it. Really something you want to get into the habit is avoiding that balls charge, because obviously the Greatsword Warriors will take massive advantage of that. We tried to block his kill shot there using our shield number 5 skill, but unfortunately we took all the damage. Instead we've now popped our shield skill over on the focus, which given us some protection to mitigate a bit more damage. You can see we're at about half HP, he's about to die anyway, but our heal is still there. We can use it whenever we want to, it's not really a problem. Again, the Guardian's just going to help get him back up, and we'll get back into combat. There he is, back up on his feet, and we lock him down, lay down some more scepter fire from range. He goes for another stomp there. Luckily we had stability up, so we managed to mitigate all the incoming damage from that. Flashing in there, applying some blindness, applying some more damage. Obviously the shield effect works really well with our Zealot's defense, actually blocking all of his ranged attacks. Using the shield there, he's going for another kill shot, and we evade that one as well. Learning these sort of animations that you're going to see for the high power attacks, or the most dangerous ones like ball charge and kill shot, is really important. You want to be able to avoid all incoming damage like that if you can. So for this final clip, we're just going to show you a little bit of how the bunkering works and how it worked a little bit in team fights. So we're coming down here towards the central node on the temple, trying to immobilise that warrior and stop him getting on the node quickly, get ourselves a little couple ticks. He hits us with a Eviscerate there. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to dodge out the way of it, and he also then hits us with this Whirling Axe attack, which is doing a lot of damage. We popped up Retaliation, which meant he did quite a lot of that damage himself, but we still took quite a lot of the brunt of the force of that. We're taking a lot more damage at the start of that fight than we should have done. However, we're playing a little bit safer just then. We're popping up our shield, playing it a little bit better, and our teammate comes in to help support us as well as Elementalist. So we force that warrior away. The Elementalist is going to go and try and chase him down, and we stay back here to capture the point. So that was just your initial skirmish. We won that quite quickly, taking control there. And you can see this thief coming down. He actually hurts himself by falling down the ledge, and we start just throwing a few scepter orbs towards him, trying to do a little bit of damage on him. You can see we've now managed to get control of the central node, and our teammates have also managed to neutralise their node and control our node as well. So we're doing pretty well as a team, all ourselves bunkering down against all this incoming attacks. So there's 2 players now on the node from the red team. There's a third player coming in now as well. So currently it's 3v2 down here. We've got some support from our own team, and now it's 4v2. So we're bunkering down as much as possible, getting up retaliation on ourselves and our teammates, using our elite skill here to mitigate some damage and also get all our virtues back up so we can recast those when we need to. Used our heal just a moment ago. You can see we're taking quite a bit of damage, but our teammates are doing a fairly good job. We've got a second one come down now as Thief as well, who's supporting us, and we're just applying this retaliation to everyone we can, supporting our teammates with our virtues, trying to apply some healing and regeneration and the buffs to them as much as possible, using our shouts as well, which obviously help with that. And we can support our teammates fairly effectively, and we just won a skirmish there, and we triple capped the game. So a really, really good start for the team, and we were basically playing the bunker for that. For all intents and purposes, we were the bunker for the start of that game. Obviously, it's not as strong as having something like a mace and shield bunker, a mace shield and hammer bunker as far as the Guardian goes, but it's still fairly effective. So I hope you all enjoy this episode. I hope you'll try out this build. It's really good fun, it's very versatile, it's fantastic for hot drawing games because you can just fit nearly any role, and it's also fairly useful in those tournament matches as well, so give it a try, give it a whirl, and tell me what you think in the comments below. Hope you all enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you all again soon.